You're just in time for the Johnny Brew Show.
What's going on, guys? John Brookhagen, host of the Johnny Brew Show, and welcome to part 4 of the season premiere with our new beautiful set. I hope you like what you see. I'm having a ball. I got a new producer. She's beautiful. You know, you guys heard of Tom McDonald? I'm going to do a special, I think, next week on some of his lyrics and some of his rise to fame. But I just wanted to shout him out, and one of the things that I love about him is he's not signed. Him and his girl make videos. He writes the music, they record it, they make a video, they release it. He's number 1 in the country across all genres with his new hit Snowflakes. And he's got his haters, he's got his detractors, but he's not tied to anyone. He's not going to lose a sponsorship because he doesn't have one. He's not going to lose his label because he doesn't have one. Him and his girl work their tail off, produce a product that has a great demand, and boom, they're kicking ass. Well, that's what I want. I want me, my girl, I'm going to spit some truth, because I feel like we have a great demand for truth and we don't have a lot of supply of it. So I'm trying to provide you with that. My girl's producing, distributing, trying to make me look good. It's not easy, but she's trying. The set makes me look pretty good right here. Oh, no. Right here, you remember when Evel Knievel jumped the fountains? I'm sorry. I have a long segment, and I'm already getting the let's wrap it up, and we still got a lot of videos to go. This portion of the program is brought to you by Rob's List. All right, I think it's robslist.org. It might be robslist.com, but either way, you Google Rob's List. R-O-B, Rob, Republican-owned business. Because we're not cancel culture. We're not boycott culture. But we are spend our money intelligently culture. All right? So let's find somebody that shares your values. Every time I turn you on to someone, whether it's Cause Effect, The Meltdown with Darian Anthony, Common Sense Infinity, Rob's List, Rick Charles, anybody I recommend is somebody who loves this country. So somebody who has an American flag in their place of business. And most important, anywhere you go to do business, make sure if you call them, somebody answers the phone. If you got a computer or some telemarketer in India answering the phone, find someplace else to spend your money. We need to bring the individual back. All right? I can't be prompted on some voice prompt to tell you what my problem is. I just need to talk to someone. Sorry. Rob's List. It's in order to promote Republican-owned businesses and try to fight cancel culture. So check that out. And also, there's going to be a special towards the end of this. And my friend Rob, he shot it, was the cameraman, produced it. He did a great job. I'm not making any money, so obviously these people, these great people who are helping me, Miguel, Ivaldo, Natalie, Travis, Rob, anybody who's helping me out is doing it out of the passion or out of kindness. So please, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Now, this is the last section. I couldn't move on without talking about coronavirus. I am over coronavirus. I'm sure you are too. When I go walk the streets, go into the stores, everybody's over coronavirus. Thank goodness. I mean, we're starting to get back to normal. I went to the Knights game, Game 6, 18,000 fans, hugging, loving, winning, moving on. It's great. I almost feel like we're back to normal. I'm looking forward to a nice heavy metal concert. That's what I'm looking forward to. I want to sweat all over these coronavirus people and mosh and dance and hug. I'm all good. All right. So What I want to talk about is a lot of the things that we've been finding out lately, especially like on Dr. Fauci. I haven't talked to you guys in 3 or 4 weeks, and a lot has happened. And we are finding more about misinformation from the people who are screaming misinformation. All right? But I never, ever talk about Trump on my podcast, right? Only because he's been laying low. I wouldn't say he's irrelevant, but he hasn't been in the news. Well, he gave a speech and he commented on Fauci. So why don't we start out with what our 45th president said and what this 45-year-old thinks of it. Play tape.
First said 13 months ago, the evidence demonstrates that the virus originated in a Chinese government lab. Couldn't say it. You couldn't say it. And Dr. Fauci, who I actually got along with, he's a nice guy. He's a great promoter, you know. Not a great doctor, but he's a hell of a promoter. He likes television more than any politician in this room. And they like television. But he's been wrong on almost every issue. And he was wrong on Wuhan and the lab also, very wrong. And we ended the payments. You know, they were started in 2014. And then I can tell you, Mark Meadows came in and I talked to him and he saw what I saw. And I said, what the hell's going on? When did that start? Started in 2014 and we ended it. Our administration ended it. But
all right, guys, one thing that needs to be said. I am not a fan of Barack Hussein Obama. But he ended it. I think it was 2015. He tried to put an end to this because even he realized that this is dangerous stuff. And Fauci did an end around and used some sort of FAUX emergency reasoning to continue this gain of function research, even though Obama explicitly said not to. And then Trump came in, and you know Trump, he ain't going to be baloneyed, for lack of a better term, on this clean, family-friendly radio station or podcast, whatever you want to call it. Trump said no, that's it, no more. Yet Fauci continued to find ways to do it. Now, he's been told by 2 presidents not to do this stuff. Yet somehow it's still being done. Who does this guy think he is? And, I'm sorry, continue the tape. I'll share more in a second.
generally speaking, I went the opposite way of Dr. Fauci, what he was saying. For instance, Fauci said, do not close our borders to China or Europe. But I did it anyway. And months later.
All right. Now, as we've seen from the emails, we realize, Fauci has been flip-flopping on the masks, flip-flopping on closing flights to China or England or Europe or South America, Brazil. All evidence leads to Fauci is almost or at least or maybe more concerned with the reputation of the Chinese Communist Party than he is with the health and well-being of American citizens. And the second a portion of our population believes that, he's got to go. He's got to go. Even if he did everything right, if the American people have these kind of doubts, you are not fit, even if they're unfounded. But they are founded. Please continue, DJT.
He said, I made the right decision and saved thousands and thousands of lives. He said it was the right decision, but he did not want to close that border. I said, wait a minute, there's tremendous infection over there. We can't let this happen. And we closed it, and I think we saved hundreds of thousands of lives. You remember the number was 2.2 million people in our country who were expected to die. Fauci said powerfully at the beginning, no masks. You remember that? No, masks don't work, masks don't. And then he went into masks, and then he became a radical masker. I would call it. If you have 3, if you have 4.
Need a pair of goggles? I think that's Trump's next line. I like Trump because he just says what he's thinking and he means what he says. And Sometimes he hyperbolizes, and sometimes he exaggerates, and sometimes he sticks his foot in poop. But he's real. He's real. I don't always agree with him. But I agree with it that he's genuine. And like he said, he didn't even mention, Fauci says masks scientifically don't work. Well, somebody got in his ear, maybe a mask manufacturer, and said, no, you got to tell people to wear masks. So then he tells us that science says masks. Baloney. Children are not getting infected. Children are not at risk. Children are not dying. But the teachers union tells Fauci we need to keep schools closed. I still don't know why, because they want teachers to stay at home. I still don't understand the radical craziness of the teachers union trying to keep schools closed. Clearly, students are the last thing they're concerned with. But then Fauci says, okay, let me copy and paste your letter to me and just make it public policy. So we got the teachers union and whoever's convincing Fauci, that's who's running the country during this pandemic. They got more power than the president, more power than our legislature or our local governors. It's ridiculous. Please, Donald, continue with your genuineness.
Get a pair of goggles also, ideally. And let's wear them for another 5 or 6 years. But Fauci has perhaps never been more wrong than when he denied the virus and where it came from. The time has come for America and the world to demand reparations and accountability from the Communist Party of China. We should all declare within one unified voice that China must pay. They must pay.
All right, and Trump is beating around the bush a little bit here. I mean, because at this point, and I've said it before, the singular question right now to China should be prove this was not intentional. The way the bat lady doctor said on Tucker back in August of 2020. She worked at the Wuhan lab. She says, for sure, it was caused by a lab leak. She says, for sure, this was done intentionally to disrupt the world. And don't let some dumbass propaganda minister from CNN say, oh, why would China hurt themselves? China, their citizens are not priority number one over there. All right? We think that because we're Americans and we believe the government believes that that our citizens are priority number one, we inherently think that the Chinese government's priority must be its citizens. But guys, the rest of the world and all of human history is not like America. All right? Most governments are corrupt and power hungry and will do anything to maintain that power, including the Chinese Communist Party. I need to know, and if I was president, prove to me that this was not done intentionally. And if you prove that, I will lift the embargoes because we will do no trade. We will have no meetings. We will have no diplomatic relations whatsoever until you prove to me definitively that this was not intentional. Now, I don't care. If it's a lab leak, we'll consider some sort of penalty or reparations or some way to make sure this never happens again. If this came from a bat, okay. Well, let's find patient 0 and find out and make sure this never happens again. But until you prove to me with patient 0 or where the lab leak occurred, prove to me one way or another that this wasn't intentional. Until then, we are on the brink of war. All right, 5 million people died with COVID. All right, maybe half of them got hit by a bus and died with COVID. But either way, millions of people actually did die. And don't tell me some crap about I'm a COVID denier or something like that. All right? My brother-in-law's father passed away from COVID. He was older. He had some underlying conditions, but he wasn't going to die. But he caught COVID and he did die. This stuff is horrible. COVID is real. It might not be as bad as they led us to believe. I still maintain we shouldn't have locked down, shut down, done anything. We should have protected the elderly. All right? Two things can be true at the same time. I could tell you COVID was overblown and ridiculously used by progressive dictators. And I could tell you COVID was real and it was horrible, and people I know passed away because singularly of COVID. They both can be true at the same time. But until China proves to me that this wasn't intentional, we should be considering this an act of war. And my biggest point, and something you're not hearing on Fox or CNN or anybody else. In the 1940s, we were working on a nuclear bomb. We weren't constructing and testing this nuclear bomb in England or in Russia or in Germany or in China. They all were trying to do the same thing. But because of American ingenuity, we did it first. And that reaffirmed and cemented our place at the top of the food chain, where we can have a welfare state, where we could fund transgender studies in Pakistan, where we could give Guatemala $500 million to combat climate change. That all resulted because we were the country that built the bomb first. Because of American ingenuity, because of equality of opportunity, because of bringing in immigrants like Albert Einstein to help make America great. We didn't work with other countries. All right? Now, nuclear power is a great resource for creating energy. Nuclear bombs are a great resource for annihilating your enemy. All right? One is a good thing, one is kind of a bad thing. But it's modern technology. Now, if you insist on doing gain-of-function research, it's the same thing as a nuclear bomb. No joke, no hyperbolization, no exaggeration. All right? Gain-of-function can help us cure the common cold. It could help us cure some viruses, some diseases. It could be a really good thing for public health. It could also be a bioweapon. It could wipe out a population of people. All right? We're not supposed to be in China working with the Chinese to try to figure out how to save the world and build a bioweapon. We should be doing it here in America and doing it faster and better than the Chinese, who are our adversary. Why are we working with them, funding them, helping them build a bioweapon? Are we out of our damn minds? But Fauci doesn't want us to sound accusatory against China. Well, I got two words. One starts with an F and one ends with a U. I am accusatory. I've heard nothing good about the Chinese government, and I want answers. But Fauci doesn't want us to take that tone. Fauci used to love doing interviews with Mexican comedians and anybody who will let him on. I noticed Fauci for the past month only goes on the Democratic propaganda machine networks. Well, let's see what he said with these softball questions on the Morning Joe. Play tape.
And you probably hear a lot, I hear a lot, is from people out on the street and people who are on our show. Why is this so hard? Why is it so hard to find the source of this outbreak that's killed more than 3 million people around the world, 600,000 people here in the United States, has upended our lives and our economy? Is it because China is so opaque? Is it because WHO is not sharing information? Why is this so difficult?
You know, there are several reasons, Willie, why it's difficult. I think one of the things is that we need better access to all the information. I mean, it's obviously in China's interest to find out exactly what it is.
Are you kidding me? Isn't this the same Dr. Fauci who's been telling us for a year that China has been amazingly transparent and helping to do whatever it is you do? Now you're going to tell us they need to be more transparent? Or you need more access to the data? Which is it? Which is it? Is China incredibly transparent, or are they not giving you access to the data? Which one is it? Stop talking out of both sides of your mouth. Or like Rick Charles says, every hole in your orifice or body or whatever it is. I mean, this is ridiculous. The doublespeak, the covering, is he a Chinese communist or is he an American health official? Please, I'm sorry.
Is of the natural theory would be to find that link. So you have to keep looking for it. I mean, obviously you want openness.
Keep looking for it. Guys, every time we've had a naturally occurring virus, and that's including like 100 years ago, when we didn't have the technology we had now, they always found patient zero in well less than a year. All right? And this is a new virus that's really easy to track and test and everything else. That's how come we were able to get the tests and the vaccine so quick. All right? This is a very unique virus. More unique than most other pandemics we've had in the past. So, if it really is naturally occurring, I'm not an expert, but I could virtually tell you with my intelligence and my logic, and you should use your intelligence and your logic to come to a similar conclusion. Patient zero would have been found a year ago if this was truly naturally occurring. 100% it would have been found a year ago. And now he's acting like people should be looking for patient zero? If you really thought this was naturally occurring, you would have an army of people with transparent China looking for patient zero, and you would have found it by now. All right? People don't know this because they only listen to your BS. Tune in to anybody else. You'll realize patient zero will be found in less than a year in almost every naturally occurring outbreak. I'm sorry. Please, Dr. Fauci, dig a little deeper, please.
And cooperation. One of the ways you can get it is don't be accusatory. Try to get both a forensic, a scientific, and an investigational approach.
He just said a forensic investigation. All right? He doesn't mean that. He doesn't mean that. All right? He wants to do his political approach. If you did a forensic approach, we would have answers by now. Guys, it's going on a year and a half. The whole world is affected by this. You have any resource you want. Joe Biden is constantly giving trillions of dollars for vaccine research, vaccine acceptance, vaccine distribution. Anything to do with COVID has an unlimited budget. Unlimited. If you wanted the truth, you would have the truth. Give an unbiased scientist the data, and we'll get some answers right quick. All right? Stop with these scientific studies funded by progressive think tanks and governments who tell you there's climate change. Because if they don't tell you there's climate change, you don't get the contract next year. Who's going to tell us that COVID is natural? All right? All those scientists that signed that stupid letter a year ago that said they know for sure it was natural, they should be barred from ever publishing anything scientific again. Just like the generals who all signed that list saying that the Hunter Biden thing is Russian propaganda. The laptop was Russian propaganda. All of the people who signed that letter should never be allowed to publish again. There's scores, hundreds of elite experts, generals, politicians that are baloneying us. And I hate them. I don't hate a lot of people. I hate them. Please, is there more from Fauci?
I think the accusatory part about it is only going to get them to pull back even more. We've got to do it in a combination of diplomacy, scientific, forensic investigation, and do it in a way that the people of good faith, not who want to do blame, but people in good faith are really trying to find out what the origin is.
That's me. I'm a person of good faith. Fauci, I gave you the benefit of the doubt for years. All right? I'm unabashedly conservative. But I'm rooting for Biden when he goes to meet Putin next week. He's America. He represents me. I'm not rooting for him to fall down the stairs when he goes to meet Putin so I could laugh at him. And I'm not rooting for Dr. Fauci to win or lose or tie against China. I am an objective person who wants to know the truth. And you keep talking about diplomatically, scientifically, and forensically. Diplomatically and scientifically are turning into one and the same. And diplomatically means politically. And again, I won't repeat myself. Well, yeah, I will. You don't want to do it forensically or you would have done it by now. Does he have anything left to say in this stupid clip? Makes my blood boil.
And we're seeing a lot of, I don't even want to describe it, a lot of pointing of fingers and things like that. Keep an open mind and go after the truth.
You say it's in China's interest, though. Would you agree, though, Dr. Fauci, it is in their interest to hide it if there was a lab leak or worse, if they were designing something in their lab so that the world, that America didn't know that it came out of their own lab? Wouldn't they want to conceal that?
You know, Willie, I don't want to be speculating on that because every time I say something like that, you know it as well as I. It will get completely taken out of context and go into the Twitter world like crazy. So, I mean, I'm going to leave that to other people and not surmise and guess whose interest it is. It's not helpful because everything you say then gets completely taken out of context.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. Remember in the last segment or yesterday's segment or whatever, you had that black guy with his daughter talking about how they pray for people and how kind they were, and it stirred a lot of emotion in me. Same here on the other end of the spectrum. I'm disgusted. I'm furious. This stupid propagandist finally asks a good question, a real question for Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci, if China did do this deliberately, or if China did do this accidentally, but it'll make them look bad, wouldn't it be in their best interest to hide the truth? And what would we do in that case? And he deflects. He wants to answer every question. He wants to be on every TV show. But then when a real question is asked about what if, oh, I don't want to be taken out of context. How about you say, well, if I found out they did this on purpose, I would go right to the president and we would be at war. Or if I found out this was a lab leak and they've been hiding it from us, I would cut all funding from them. That's what would happen. Why can't he say that? If China is innocent, including if there's a lab leak and it was an accident, and they came forward, we're not going to cut off all ties with China for the rest of our lives. There would have to be some sort of accountability. But why can't Fauci say, if they did this nefariously, we would cut all funding? Why can't he say that? That way, if China is innocent, they don't have to worry. And if they're guilty, they have to be like, oh, crap, we just screwed up. But he can't answer that. So Fauci thinks it's all about him. And you want the proof? Here's another one of his wonderful media appearances with Chuck Todd, another real journalist in the propaganda machine of the Democratic Party. Play tape.
Now you're at the focal point. What is your level of concern that we're going to discredit public health officials to the point of, look at Russia. They actually have a good vaccine, and none of their citizens will take it because they don't trust their own government.
Right. It's very dangerous, Chuck, because a lot of what you're seeing as attacks on me, quite frankly, are attacks on science. Because all of the things that I have spoken about.
Yes. I am attacking you, and I am attacking this crap that they're now calling science. Because science is no longer science. Science is propaganda now. I don't care if you're talking about climate change or COVID. Science, the scientific community, especially anyone who gets a penny from the government, the WHO, NIAIH, or whatever it is. All of these things are political baloney. Again, I know I'm going to beat a dead horse. If I pay you to do a climate change study, if you come back and say that humans are not really affecting the climate that much, you will not get that next contract for next year. And if you do say humans are causing climate change and we're all going to die in 12 years, you get another contract the next year. What do you think is going to happen? If you play hockey and you score goals, you get a contract. If you play hockey and fall on your face and get penalties and let up goals, you lose your contract. It's the same thing. So, if Fauci says something and he controls the purse strings here in the government, if you say something that contradicts Fauci, you lose your funding and you're no longer a scientist. So I am attacking science. But he says next, if you attack me, you attack science and you attack the truth. That's a lie. I'm not attacking the truth, and I am open-minded, and I am not certain where this came from, but I want to find out. But I am attacking you, Dr. Fauci, and I am attacking the scientific community. And that's a shame, because I'm a mathematician. I love science. Science is what got us some great things. But you're ruining it. You're turning it into a political baloney thing. Sorry. Let's hear the rest of God himself speaking.
About consistently from the very beginning have been fundamentally based on science. Sometimes those things were inconvenient truths for people, and there was pushback against.
What are you talking? Inconvenient truth? Me telling people that hydroxychloroquine and zinc and maybe a antibiotic will help you. 1/3 of the people who caught COVID and died, 2/3 of them probably would have survived if they used hydroxychloroquine, zinc, and a Z-Pack. It's scientifically proven. Is that one of the mistruths? Is that one of the things that was inconvenient for me when you shut down my Facebook because I put up those doctors in lab coats on my Facebook profile to talk about the wonderfulness of hydroxychloroquine, vitamin D, vitamin C, and zinc? Was that an inconvenient truth for me to find out that I'm not allowed to post that? You didn't tell me no truth. You shut me up. And come to find out, my truth was a hell of a lot closer to the actual truth than your truth. Why is some 23-year-old idiot in Menlo Park deciding what kind of scientific information I could share on my page? What makes that 27-year-old idiot in San Francisco more qualified than those 12 doctors that stood up there and explained the benefits? You know why? Because if we found out there was a treatment, then we would lose our emergency authorization for the vaccine, and all of the richest people in the world had their toes in the vaccine sand, and they're all making billions of dollars right now. From your tax dollars and Italy's tax dollars and Brazil's tax dollars, all the governments are sending all their money to these 12 idiots, Fauci and Gates among them. And tell me that when you corrected me, I couldn't deal with the inconvenient truths? You're not talking to a damn second grader, and I'm not your kid. All right? I'm a logical person that sees through your baloney. Don't tell me I'm not comfortable with your inconvenient truths. I'm sorry. Please. Play tape.
Against me. So if you are trying to, get at me as a public health official and a scientist, you're really attacking not only Dr. Anthony Fauci, you're attacking science. And anybody that looks at what's going on clearly sees that. You have to be asleep not to see that. That is what's going on.
You have to be asleep.
The truth.
You have to be asleep if you're still listening to this idiot. I'm sorry. I'm telling you, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I thought he was a somewhat nice guy. He was a pro. He was doing his best. Baloney. He thinks he's God. And I'm not saying that to He thinks he is science. He thinks he is truth. He's full of it. I've had it. This guy needs to be out. He needs to be possibly arrested, possibly charged, and possibly a lot of things. I'm really, really pissed. And I don't want to say something I regret, like saying we should string him up or something. Because I don't know, maybe I'm just a little hot right now. But you're not science and you're not the truth. You're some idiot who's making bank. And not only are you the highest paid federal employee at over $400,000 a year, I guarantee you that's your side, that's your pocket change. With all the other side deals you got going on. With communists. With people who want to rule the world. With people who would use this as a bioweapon. And you're in bed with the wrong people. That if it was an accident, come clean now. And people aren't buying this bull. People aren't buying this baloney. They're not. That's right. Johnny Brew took it to the streets. Johnny Brew did interviews with common people from Louisiana, from Las Vegas, from Idaho, from Mexico. All right? And people are not buying the Fauci line. You don't believe me? I got the videotape evidence. You want to find out what people really think where COVID came from? I asked a dozen random people on the street. This is what they had to say. And this is coverage you only get on the Johnny Brew Show. Play tape. Here we go. Hey guys, I need to ask you a couple questions. Is that all right? Are you from Vegas?
Yes.
All right. It's the Johnny Brew Show.
Welcome back, friends. You're just in time for the Johnny Brew Show.
I'm Gary, this is my wife Tia. We're from Tennessee.
First, what's your name and where you're from?
My name's Belva.
Belva?
And I'm from New Orleans.
From Belva, from New Orleans. You want to step right up? So, what's your name?
Jessica from Alexandria.
Perfect. All right, I got 10 easy questions. You ready? What is your name and where you're from?
I'm from Mexico and my name is German.
And how do you spell that?
German.
All right, German, welcome.
My name is Coco Vinny Zaldivar. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada.
And is that C-O-C-O?
C-O-C-O, V-I-N-N-Y, Z-A-L-D-I-V-A-R.
Awesome. What's your name and where you're from?
Jonathan Simmons from Kansas City, Missouri.
Peyton Simmons from Missouri.
Awesome. All right. Couple of easy questions to start. You ready?
Yep.
All right. First of all, what's your name and where you're from?
Edward Burton from Little Rock, Arkansas.
First of all, what's your name and where you're from?
Carla, I'm from Fresno.
And can you spell your first name?
C-A-R-L-A.
Where did COVID come from?
Supposedly China.
Hold on, they're asking me.
Oh. Oh.
So they say
Don't let her influence your answers.
They say it came from China, right? But it came from a bat, right?
I'm asking you.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
It came from a bat. Came from a bat. So it originally comes from a bat.
It originally comes from a bat and then jumped to a human.
Some human ate it. Some human ate some bad bat.
A bad bat. You got to stay away from the bad bat, right? You don't need no bad bat in Vegas.
Don't eat bad bat until it's...
The bat in Vegas is the worst.
Yes.
I promise you. All right. Where did COVID come from?
Where did COVID come from? They say it originated from, hell, I don't even know. Hell, it could have came from anywhere, but everyone is saying it came from China. Hell, I don't know. I know we've been vaccinated, and I'm fine. So.
All right. Where did COVID come from?
They say Wuhan, China, but
it came from a petri dish.
A petri dish. Can you expand?
Well, it's a virus, and it was manipulated to become COVID-19. We're all nurses, by the way.
Holla, I like that. We got a bunch of nurses here, so maybe we'll get some truth. Because obviously I'm not an expert. I was told that it came from a bat in a wet market.
It's what they say.
Said. One of their explanations.
Who knows, though?
But yeah.
Really?
They probably harvested it from a bat and then grew it in there.
So your best guess is Petri dish.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I can accept that. Part 2, you ready?
Yeah.
Where did COVID come from?
China.
China. And how do you know that?
I don't really believe it came from China. I think it came from here.
Really? Expand.
I think
No
it was
offense taken.
I think it was released by the government in order
America.
in America
And then brought to China? Because the first cases were found in China.
that they reported.
Very good. All right, we got a little tinfoil hat girl here. I like this. You're gonna be a big hit. German, where did COVID come from?
Where they COVID? I think China.
You think China? Why do you think that?
I mean, I don't really. I just see what happened on the news, and then that's the first thing. That's the first thing what I see, and then the note is coming from there. So that's what I thought.
China.
Yep.
Where did COVID come from?
COVID? They said a monkey, but I just feel it was man-made. So, that's the way I feel.
They said a monkey. You say you think man-made.
Was it a monkey?
Come again? No, they said a bat.
Bat. Okay.
A bat.
Bat.
But you ain't buying it.
No.
All right.
Man-made.
All right. Where did COVID come from?
I don't know for sure. I hear a lot of different things. They say it came from some kind of bat that migrated into some kind of cat, into the rat, and then all this other stuff. Also say it came out of a lab in Hunan or wherever. Who knows? Nobody knows.
Where did COVID come from?
Like what country or like in general?
You could answer it any way you'd like.
It came from like bats and like another animal. I think it was like in China.
All right. All right, guys. There you have it. That's what normal people, and you could see it was quite a diverse group, including the way they dressed. I love people, and I hope you like that new segment. All right? That segment was brought to you by Rob's List, Republican-owned business, robslist.org, and I want to thank Rob Kafka for coming out on location and filming that with me. And that's going to be a regular segment here on the Johnny Brew Show because I want to hear from you. Please, if you were not at the Las Vegas sign last night, then just give us a call or a text or a voice memo. 702-682-9983. All right? Also, you can always email us, thejohnnybrewshow@gmail.com. I need you to subscribe to our YouTube, and I need you to follow me on Facebook. I know I'm giving you a lot of stuff, but I'm not asking you for money. I'm not asking you for anything. I just need your support on all these different platforms so I could reach more people. And nothing draws a crowd like a crowd. All right, that's about it for this week's coverage on the Johnny Brew Show. I do want to leave you with one more thing. This is something we're going to be covering extensively in the future. All right? Fake news. It's all around us. That is the epidemic we should be addressing. Every day we find out things that were once labeled misinformation and now they're accepted as truth. We'll be talking about Hunter Biden's laptop, which has been proven to have been the difference in the 2020 election. 4% of Democratic voters said they would not have voted for Biden had they known about the laptop. That's it. All right? That decision by the mainstream and social media platforms to bury that story changed the results of an election. But yet, no accountability. All right? We're talking about Fauci's email saying one thing, doing another. Hydroxychloroquine actually is still banned on Facebook, but yet we're getting evidence that everything that was said about hydroxychloroquine was true. I'm going to leave you with one example, the latest example, and something that's near and dear to my heart. Actually, I'll tell you the story after we play the tape. This is from fake news. And here's NBC trying to cover their own asses while they kind of report that they made a mistake. You listen to this and watch them with the egg on their face. Play tape.
Chuck, this is a really surprising finding by the Inspector General of the Interior Department. They took a look at this, an independent investigation, and they found that the decision to clear the park made by the park police had nothing to do whatsoever. They found no evidence that it had anything to do with the president's decision to have a photo op and walk through there and have a photo op at the nearby historic church. They had decided, the park police, to clear that park of protesters hours before, according to this report, so a contractor could install some anti-scale fencing. And that decision was made irrespective of what Trump decided to do. In fact, there's a moment in this report where we've all seen on video the Attorney General walks into that park and speaks with the park police incident commander. We couldn't hear from the video what was being said. According to this report, Barr then informs the park police that the president is coming down, and the park police commander is shocked by this. And he says, according to this report, "Are you freaking kidding me?" Now, the thing about that...
All right, guys. You notice that they have egg on their face, and they're still trying to spin it to make, William Barr or Trump or anyone, they're still trying to spin it to make it look like, oh, they're evil. They're just not as evil as we first portrayed. All right? And let me tell you about my personal experience with this story, because I think it's really important. They're trying to shape a narrative. They're trying to rewrite history. They're trying to do what they do. I remember this story. It could have been a year ago. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm thinking it was last June. It could have been last October. But I remember watching TV. And I remember the BLM protests were going on. It was 1 year ago. Last June, 2020. And they were showing the protests across the street from the White House. We even heard that Trump begrudgingly was brought down to the basement bunker because the protests and the looting and the fire and the violence was right outside the White House. And I saw a live report, and a journalist was at that church, a church that almost every president has stepped foot in, a church that has been there for hundreds of years. And it's a church, welcoming, non-racist, trying to help people. And I saw the report, and I saw the fire inside the church. They had like basement windows, which like at the top of the basement is the bottom of the house. And you could see inside those windows that the basement of the church was on fire. And it infuriated me, much like I've been infuriated for a lot of this episode. And I was sickened watching that fire destroy things. I had no idea what, but I'm sure important things. My business has been here for 3 years. If my business caught on fire, I'd be devastated. If my business, like that church, had been standing for 300 years or 200 years or 150 years and had presidents attend and sign things and do things, I'm sure they have a lot of important stuff. And that was on fire, and it broke my heart, and it infuriated me. It made me sad and mad all at the same time, watching that fire burn. And it wasn't even pointed out by the journalist. He was covering all the hysteria going on around him. I just happened to notice the church was on fire in the basement. And it wasn't even addressed on the newscast, but I noticed it and it upset me a lot. A lot. And the next day, President Trump cleared the people, or I was told President Trump cleared the people out of that street and took a picture with the Bible to show that he's a Christian, and he stood by next to the church to make sure that it wasn't destroyed. And then the mainstream media made it out like Trump did this horrible dictatorial thing by bringing in troops, National Guard military troops against its own citizens, and that didn't really sound right. Just like Russia putting bounties on American soldiers didn't really sound right. That turned out to be more fake news to make Trump look bad. And, I was getting into discussions with some of my progressive friends And they bring up the bounties on Americans' head that just didn't sound right. I didn't have an answer for it. Or saying that Trump brought in the National Guard to wipe out all of the peaceful protesters that were just simply asking for unity as they burned down the church. And I didn't have answers to these arguments. And it frustrated me because I knew something was fishy, but I didn't have all the facts. And now a year later, I can't go back to that argument and say I told you so. The Russian bounties, I can't tell you I told you so. But yet these people who are now admitting that they either lied intentionally or didn't do the research and reported lies, not only are they not apologizing for it, but listen to how indignant they are and how they still try to portray us, patriots and conservatives, as the bad guy. Play a tape.
That episode is it does show that Barr seemed to be trying to speed it up. Once Trump made the decision to come through there, Barr went down and sort of said, hey, let's get this thing moving. But the decision to use force against those protesters, which remains controversial, Chuck, was not made, according to this report, because Trump wanted a photo op. Now, I should also add, Chuck, that this report finds some fault with the way that operation was undertaken. For example, it finds that the park police wasn't going to use tear gas, but Washington, D.C. officers did fire tear gas at the crowd. It finds that many members of the crowd did not hear the 3 warnings they were supposed to get to disperse before the police moved in, and it finds that Bureau of Prisons officers, who nobody was even understood why they were there, fired pepper balls at the crowd. But it doesn't second guess the decision to clear the protesters. It says that the park police was within their rights. And this is controversial, Chuck. Black Lives Matter is suing the Justice Department in federal court over this. And our own Garrett Hake was there that day and reported, if you recall, that the protests were not violent at that moment until the police moved in and caused violence. That was his direct bird's eye reporting, Chuck. So this remains an issue of controversy, but the narrative we thought we knew is not the reality.
You know, these people make me sick. This is supposed to be a retraction. This is supposed to be an apology. They spend 2 minutes covering it. They spend 25 seconds explaining their mistake. And then they spend a minute and a half explaining how it's still controversial. We're still sticking up for Black Lives Matter, a communist political organization. We're still trying to make Barr and everybody and Trump and everybody still look bad. And they keep using the word controversial to describe conservatives or police. Not controversial that they reported things that changed people's minds. Not controversial. And at the moment, it was a moment of peace. Give me a flipping break. The city was on fire. The church was on fire. Everything was on fire. They're throwing Molotov cocktails and bottles full of urine and firecrackers and laser beams and bricks. You found a 30-second window when it wasn't violent? And that's the example you're going to use for why this is controversial? You are controversial. Damn propaganda machine. That's all you are. And that's all you ever will be from now on. That's why you have no more ratings. That's why you're realizing the only people still watching your stupid newscasts are the 2 to 5% of radical progressives that try to act like they're the majority in this country. People who love this country are the majority. Brown, pink, purple, and blue. All these people off the boat from Africa, these people off the boat from Mexico, all these Latin people on the border who you think want open borders. No, they don't. They want a wall on the border of Texas. Even the people from Mexico, from the Northern Triangle, which is the root cause of mass migration. I'm going to have to leave because I'm going to start spitting expletives, and I've gotten through like 3 hours of this podcast without, well, no, actually I did slip a couple times, but I'm not going to slip anymore. I got to tell you guys, I might seem pissed, and I am. But I love this country. I love this podcast. I love you guys supporting me. And no matter how pissed I am, I had a blast. I loved talking to you guys, telling the truth. I want your feedback. Please leave me comments. Call the Johnny Brew hotline, 702-682-9983. All right, I want to thank Rob Kafka from robslist.org, republican-owned-businesses.org, for helping me out with that on-location shoot. I want to give a shout-out to The Meltdown with Darian Anthony, The Rick Charles Show, COSEffect.com, themathinstitute.com, and the Common Sense Facebook group. All right? Thank you, everybody who's helped me get to where I am, whether it's with graphics, videos, audio. You know who you are. I really appreciate it. Guys, I need more help. Tell a friend, subscribe, podcast, YouTube, Facebook. Help me out. I'm growing, and I want to grow. I want to grow more. I want to get more people involved. Interviews. We're going to have to update the CCRP. Nothing's going on right now. We're waiting for a judgment in the courts. So that should come by June 15th. So next week we should have some coverage on that. All right, we got a lot of things to talk about, from the Nevada legislative session that just ended to Carrie Ann and Mike McDonald and David Sajak, Mike McClain, Matt Anthony. You know, these things are still going on. Education. We're going to be bringing Anna Binder back in. I'd like to give a shout out to Spilling the CCSD Tea, or Anna, I'm so sorry. Supporting CCSD parents, or empowering CCSD parents. That's another Facebook group. And I just want to give a shout out to all the parents all across the country that have been showing up at your school board meetings. You people who are running for school board or supporting candidates, joining groups. Guys, keep it up. This is our battle. We are in a civil war. It might not be bullets and hand grenades, but it's technology, it's social media, it's propaganda media. So stay strong. Tune into the Johnny Brew Show for the truth. I promise you, I'll never hide. I'll never represent something the wrong way. I'm here for the truth. I'm open-minded. I'm logical. And I want you guys to participate. So please, tell me what you think. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Adriana. You're the best producer ever in the whole wide world. And you guys are the best support system in the whole wide world. My name is John Brookhagen, and I will be right here next week to give you more truth. Thank you so much.